All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Prevail Gem podcast, where I'm answering questions from you guys that I get every single week. The question that I got last week that kind of piqued my interest was, how do we balance running and strength training? It is June. We are in the midst of running season. A lot of people prep in spring and fall, so we are like in it. If you have a fall race, you're getting ready to start. So I want to go over, how do you balance it? What should it look like? And why is it important? Like I said, one of the questions was, how do I balance everything? And a lot of times people think it's one or the other. I'm only strength training or I'm only running. But really they need to go hand in hand, and we'll talk about why. Back last November, I completed a 100-mile ultra marathon. And I learned a lot of things in that. But one of the biggest things that I took away from that was that race itself, it completely exposed my weaknesses and my imbalances. I thought that I was strong going into it, but throughout the end of prep and the actual race itself, it really showed me, hey, you're not quite as strong as what you thought you were in specific areas. So building a strong foundation before race prep is super important. The best way I like to explain this, I have my analogies, okay, is a teeter-totter. So at the beginning, I want to make sure you can see me. So at the beginning of training, you are starting with strength training high and running is low. And what I mean by that is the main importance is up here. So we are focusing on building strength, building power, building mobility, reducing our risk of injury. This is the main priority. This is something that we need to be doing all the time, all year long. Running, the priority for running is probably down here, whether that means 0 miles a week, 7 miles a week, 20 miles a week. It's just maintenance, or you're just beginning. So the focus is being strong. The focus is not yet being a runner or a strong runner. So as the training progresses, you're going to see the teeter-totter start to switch. So about a quarter of the way through, or around the halfway point, running and strength training kind of start to level out. They begin to be a little more balanced. So your running volume has increased again, whether that's from 0 to 20 or from 20 to 30, it's increasing. So it's more demanding on your body. Okay, the workouts, we're still doing them. We may still be lifting the same number of days each week, but the intensity is going to change. We're not necessarily hitting PRs. That's not the focus anymore. What we don't want is to be giving 100% of effort to both of them at the same time. So the teeter-totter has to balance out at a certain point. So then we're halfway here. Now the teeter-totter starts to shift again, and now running becomes even more of a priority. So it's the highest priority. Long runs matter more. Mobility matters more. Recovery and sleep. You need to really focus on your movement quality and how our body feels. When we look at our strength training, it's still important, but now we may be doing a little more body weight work. We may be lifting a little, I'm not gonna hold my hands for the whole time, but we may not be lifting as heavy. We're focusing more on range of motion and doing a lot more body weight movements. So some higher rep ranges. We're not trying to hit any kind of PR at all when it comes to strength training, because at a certain point, running is the priority. That has to be the main thing. One of the biggest misconceptions that I see, and maybe like the world sees, is that running builds strength because you're using your legs, and your legs are powerful and they're driving you forward, but it's not building strength. Actually, in my opinion, it's doing the opposite. It's breaking your muscles down. So everything that you have built here is going to be broken down because you're doing a repetitive movement. There's no resistance. You could argue that running up a hill is resistance, but as far as building strength, that's not what running is doing. You need to be doing some kind of lifting in the gym, some resistance training, but it's constantly breaking your body down. So strength training helps rebuild what running tears down, but we need to talk about what kind of training you should be doing paired with your running. So first, my favorite is anything posterior chain. So if you take, I'm actually going to stand up for this. If you take your body and you cut your body in half. I have no idea if you can see me. Cut your body in half this way. Everything on the back side of your body, okay, that's your posterior chain. Those are your glutes, your hamstrings, your calves, your back. These are your go muscles. These are muscles that help you create forward motion. And it's going to help you maintain running efficiency. So if these muscles are weak, then your running is really going to suffer. The second thing is your core. And this is something that I learned in my ultra training. Your core is what stabilizes everything. It's the center of your body. So whenever you start to become fatigued when you're running, or your running volume and intensity has increased so much, one of the very first things to go is your core strength. And now you have poor posture. Things are not firing the way that they're supposed to be firing. You're not as stable as you once were when your core was fresh. So a strong core is going to help you maintain good mechanics when fatigue sets in, because it will. And then third, yes, we want to focus on the posterior chain, but every muscle has a supporting muscle. And I'm going back and forth because we're thinking opposites. So if we want strong hamstrings, we still need to build strong quads. If we want strong glutes, we still need strong hip stabilizers. So our body is functioning as a system. So when we talk about like what kind of training we should do, I really recommend full body strength training 2 to 3 times per week. Here at Prevail, we have a main focus. So let's say we're training our posterior chain. You're also getting some high rep ranges with the supporting muscles as well. So when it comes to your running schedule, the best schedule is one that you can stick with. Everyone's schedule and priorities are going to be different. You need to find something that works for you and that's going to work for you throughout your entire training plan. Most training plans are 12 to 16 weeks, depending on your experience and your availability. For the most part, you don't need to be running more than 3 to 4 days a week, and strength training 2 to 3 days a week. So you need to just look at your schedule and figure out what works best for me. When can I prioritize this? When can I prioritize that? And just continue strength training. It is so important because your body is going to break down over time, and you want to be strong and strong enough to make it to the finish line injury-free and finish as strong as you can. So runners out there, don't forget that you need to strength train. And if you are strength training and you're thinking about running, you just got to find the balance. There's going to be a teeter-totter. That's what to expect, but that's going to help get you guys to the finish line injury-free.